Overhand.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos.
And I'm Josh.
Wow, we got a full house today.
Soon you're going to need a bigger table.
That's right. It's going to be like the Knights of the Round Table. That's right. But I'll tell you, we got some stuff to talk about. We had quite the meeting at the Niagara neighborhood, at the Flint Neighborhood Association, who are, Carlos, our main man, is the president, and the mayor was there. And the only thing I regretted is I didn't bring my boots from when I was a firefighter, because the BS was so deep, I needed to pull them all the way up. The mayor's blaming everything. He's, and I'm going to get on my rant right out of the gate, and everybody can come. I'll give everybody some cannon fodder. He talked about the leaving of the manufacturing jobs created the problem. Well, he didn't want to hear it, but the fact is that CJ's like tracking this camera all over the place, but that's okay. I'm talking in, I'm like way over here. Hi guys, it's like way in the background here. That's me. He talked about the leaving of the manufacturing. Our manufacturing, for the most part, has been gone for about 30 years. You can't blame. He named two places. He named Quaker Fabrics and he named Duro. Granted, they left, but I mean, he also said there were at one time 220 working mills in the city. So we lose two. But again, that's an example of how government and politicians never learn and never do anything about it. This started 30 years ago, and I'm not talking from theory. I grew up almost directly across the street from the Shelburne shirt. My mother worked for almost 60 years in a sewing shop. She worked 25 years in the Shelburne shirt, and she worked for over 30 years in Stella Ann Frock, which is right around the corner on Quikashant Street. So he's not going to tell me about when manufacturing left and, when the mills began to leave and go to North Carolina and then overseas, and all about not wanting to pay people. So that's number one, his half-truths, misrepresentations. And then he talked about the pension fund and the big bill they have in that because people are living longer. That's crap. The actuarials factor that in, and that's, that will be absorbed. That every single, as a matter of fact, we had a retirement board meeting last night. We had the Prim board down, and one of the actuarials was talking about the life expectancy and how that, and it's factored in. The reason that the city owes $25 million to the retirement fund is because they didn't pay their bills. They didn't pay their share. During the Lambert administration, they didn't pay at all some years, and some years they didn't pay till the end of the year, and that meant interest and an increase of the unfunded liability in the pension plan, and we're living with it today. So what's the moral of this story? Tell the truth, Sam. Tell the truth. I'm not blaming you for where we are. I'm blaming you for not looking at how we got here and trying to fix it. Because you use as an excuse, you continue the same old. I didn't see anything or any answers. Your answer is to tax the residents of Fall River, and we're sick and tired of it. It is time to get people in office who are looking after the taxpayer and will spend our tax money on what we want, which is essential services. And I'll close with one thing. The big thing about the forensic audit, he had to mention forensic. That means criminal. No, it doesn't. I'm going to read you the definition of forensic, a forensic accountant from Webster's Dictionary. Sam, I hope you're watching. An accountant who specializes in applying accountancy skills for the purposes of law. It's not criminal. It means the man does an accounting and then sees if it's within the scope of any laws that are applicable. That's why we had a forensic accountant come down when we filed a grievance against the city for stealing our health care money. Because our health care money and the way it is supposed to be handled is statutory, Chapter 32B. It's also in the collective bargaining agreement. So he was looking at not only where the money went, but if they lived within the spirit of the laws that were applicable. So that's exactly what we need in the city of Fall River, because the mismanagement of money is, in some cases, malfeasance, and in many cases may be criminal. So I'm going to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly the kind of audit we need in the city of Fall River. And with that, go to it, guys.
Well, Chip, the first thing I want to say is I'm sorry for our viewers. For some reason, technology being the way it is, we started broadcasting late on their end, not on our end.
You mean half of my tirade was missing?
Actually, no. Most of your tirade was up there.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But it's getting very interesting. Another thing I just want to bring up before we start tearing apart on your statements is the list. The list, the big list. Candidates for mayor, Christopher M. Bianchi and C. Samuel Sutter. So far, it looks like there's not even a race. City Council, Nancy Alves, who I understand has withdrawn her candidacy for City Council. Richard John Branco, Richard Cabaceres, Ron Cabral, Jason Caminiti, Douglas Cavallo, Russell Desbeans, Scott Donnelly, Joshua Fonte. Oh, I think he's on that panel with you over there. Emerald Gaudet, Trot Joseph Lee, Paul J. Machado, David P. Meade Jr. Oh, and David P. Meade Sr. Mike Mayoza, Ray Mitchell, Linda Pereira, Cliff Pont, Darren Seneca, Josh Silva, Ricky Tith, and Robert Jamie Tyrell. And on the school committee side, it's Nancy Alves, Gabe Andrade, Sean Connell, Paul Hart, Joe Martins, Robert Maynard, and Nicholas Parsons. So there's your city council, school committee, and mayoral candidates to date.
To date, yeah.
To date.
We know our new city councilor, if we can figure out where he lives, may or may not be a candidate.
Hey, you know, Fall River is always full of fun and excitement, I'll tell you now.
I guess that's the next soap opera.
It's always a soap
to find
opera.
out what this new city council lives. But let me start by saying that it was a very interesting meeting Wednesday. And I'm happy that we decided at the last minute, but we decided to tape it. And I hope that CJ would put it online as soon as possible so people can actually see the meeting.
Because of this weekend's commencement, the meeting will start airing, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, but
So it
you
will
can
be airing
post it
here
on
on
our
FRC Media.
Facebook page because we have a lot of followers on Facebook, and it would be very nice to have them there.
I have the copy of the the video coming down to
You
me.
didn't lost anything, did you?
Oh, I didn't edit it at all. It's going out raw, baby. It's going out raw. It's going to be a hard fit. You know, I break it out the popcorn because just watching Chip debate the mayor.
I know it was 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yes, it was.
Out of those hour and 40 minutes, the mayor was there 40 minutes?
If that.
Yeah, probably. So, but anyway, he made it this time, and I have to thank him for that. He made it and make, I guess, everybody happy that he was there.
Except him.
Oh, I don't know about that, but on that meeting, I'm not gonna add anything else. I think Chip already pretty much in 5 minutes told all about what the meeting's gonna be. The show's gonna be about 1 hour and 40 minutes about. But if you don't mind, I'm on a new fight, and my new fight is more fees, and we have more fees again. And this time, guess what? This time, we're gonna have to clean up the parks for free, and then if we want to use the park, we need to pay $150. I don't know for what, but The bad part, the sad part about this, most of these parks are used is for fundraisers. And believe it or not, a lot of kids, a lot of baseball team kids, they raise money to buy the sand to play on, which is the city was supposed to supply. They raise money to put the lines on the fields, which the city is supposed to supply. And now, if they want to raise the money to pay stuff on the parks, they have to come up with $150. So this makes no sense. But again, that comes down to 2008, that the city councils, which a lot of them still sitting in there, approved them and allowed them to come up with whatever they want for fees.
Well, you
and
know,
now
Carlos,
we can do anything and they cannot do anything.
You know, Carlos, you and I had a conversation about this because I posted a little tirade last night in regards to, share the sacrifice bull. And it's just very interesting that, now we're going to hit up the youth teams and the neighborhood associations who do the work on the parks and do not get a dime back. So you know what my thing is? Fine, I'm gonna pay you the fee. No problem. You clean your park. I'm paying for it. I expect it to be clean. I don't expect to find a dirty syringe. I don't expect to find trash. I expect it to be clean. There's your $150. You need it so bad. Now clean the park. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't want to do that, bill them. Send them a bill. That's it.
You know what irritates me about the whole thing is that, they spent almost $1 million on parks. We got a fountain up on that little postage stamp that's near one of the largest parks in the city, North Park.
Which is broke again.
I don't think it ever worked. Did it
no,
ever work?
Worked for 3 weeks.
It worked for 3 weeks. All right.
3 weeks?
All right. I stand corrected. It worked for 3 whole weeks, and it cost what, $200,000 for that fountain?
We should get a medal.
There's a good deal.
We should get a medal. We got it to work for 3 weeks.
We get back to the same. We get back to the core issue the point I was trying to make, because I didn't debate the mayor, because when you talk to the mayor, it's more like a cross-examination, because he acts like a lawyer. When he hears what he doesn't want to hear, he begins to cross-examine you, rather than allow you to make your point, and then we'll rebut each other. But the fact is, what bothers me, and we have a council candidate here, and I want to ask him to weigh in on this in a second. What bothers me is politicians always seem to figure out a way to spend our money for what they think is the right thing to do, $1 million on parks, and then they come back to us because they run out of our money and ask us for more money in the forms of fees and taxes. And this is what bothers me, because you know something? If we didn't spend $1 million on parks, we would be $1 million richer right now. We wouldn't have the deficit. We might not need some of these fees. And it gets back to the bottom line. Politicians know how to spend your money. The fact is that it's happening in Rhode Island. The governor wants to dip into a fund. And, the truckers union came out and said, now you're going to put fees on us. You're going to kill our businesses. And it's your fault that you broke. You mismanaged money. You were malfeasant. So that's the MO, and in Fall River, I think we've raised it to an art form. It's like how to spend everybody else's money, misspend it, and then go back to them and have them pay for your mistakes. And with that, I'll ask the city council candidate here that what does he think about listening to the people about the way you want your money spent?
Well, I got a chance to be at that meeting at the Flint Neighborhood Association, and you've brought up valid points. And I think that you and I have been on the same page for quite some time now. We have too many chiefs, and we have a lot of Indians. And the problem that I see now with the government wanting to spend more of our money because they want more fees, they want more taxes, because they obviously don't know how to spend our money, they want to lay off all the Indians without laying off any chiefs. And this has been something that has happened not just now in Fall River, and it's not just in Fall River, but it's all over the country. All the chiefs keep their positions, and all the Indians get laid off. And then they strong-arm the police departments, they strong-arm the fire departments, and they say, well, if you want your city to be safe, then you have to pay more. That's not right. And somebody like myself who's running for city council, I don't stand for that. I want to see cuts across the board. If you want me to share the sacrifice as a resident, then the administration needs to share the sacrifice as well. And that's where I stand on that position.
Well said, very well said. And you're right. And I guess the mayor didn't like it when I reminded him that the mayor of New Bedford in his speech said that taxpayers, they'll never like spending money, but if the taxpayers feel that their money is being spent wisely, they will pay. But what's happening here, as Carlos says, all these, every time you turn around, there's another fee now, because they've misspent so much money that they're going to tax everything. And the fact is, let's look at what they've spent the money on. The fire department's been gutted. They want to reduce the police department. They want to reduce it more. They couldn't answer the question about where the 14 firefighters that they funded before, the money disappeared when there was no reason to get rid of them. But this is the thing. They spend money on windows and ceilings and everything in the world, and then they get there and they sit there and they say, well, we're going to do this because we want better parks, and you got to prioritize. Our people, as we're sitting here, we all have our own houses to run.
Right.
And we have to choose sometimes. I can't go out and buy a Ferrari. I have to pay my bills.
Or eat a filet mignon every night.
Or eat a filet, exactly. and this is the key. It seems that Fall River, and it's funny because I'm glad that the mayor was going back into these things and talking about, this goes back forever. It's like, why do they continue to not listen to the public? At one time, we had a 300-man fire department, fully funded by tax money, almost a 300-man police department, and we've got a 210-man police department, 100 site, and we're paying more of everything in those days. But, as I said on another show, we didn't have a city administrator. We didn't have a lot of these jobs that are there now. The mayor at that time, and then Sam tried to say, well, no, he's had, Carlton Viveras had Alan Silva. Well, that came in after. He'd been in office already. Alan Silva and the city administrator's position came about after the mayor reorganized the city and supposedly consolidated departments. But again, politicians do what they do best. They throw around these fancy strategies, but what it ends up is that their friends get jobs and pay raises.
I mean, every time that somebody is running, they run with a good intention, but and I'm talking about mayor, but they ended falling on the same bucket. And I love your quotes all the time, and you give the mayor a perfect quote that I ask people to please look at the show. When you said that he was inside the bucket trying to lift the bucket. So it was a very nice quote, and I love your quotes all the time, but looks like the three Stooges, right, trying to lift up the bucket when the three of them is inside the bucket. That's right. So, but the world is full of intentions, of good intentions. Yeah. And they sell those intentions like they have the problem resolved. And we trust them, we elect them, and then when they get there, they start following the same steps that somebody was there that we didn't want them there no more. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying, where is that person that's going to really, keep the word that he has the difference?
No. Well, one of the things, and CJ hasn't really been able to talk. I haven't heard him in about a half an hour now.
He's enjoying it up there. So.
But one of the counselors came out when this transition report came out and stated at a council meeting, where did they make the mistakes? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you bonded for parks, you bonded for these extra schools, these monstrosities that have not helped the students at all. And that's, I'm not putting any blame on anybody on that sense, because I don't really know too much about that situation. But I do know that it's affected the class, because now you have 40, 50 kids in one class because these schools are so big. There are no other small schools. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go to a very small school. It was actually Sylvia's school. The school wasn't that big. I only had 15 kids in my class. Now you start to see all this, these situations. But going back to what this counselor was saying, where did they make the mistakes? They bonded for parks, they spent our money, they went into the retirement fund, and they made transfers all across the board all the time. And like you said about the 14 firefighters, where did all that money go? It seemed like it vanished. It was gone. And that's why, I took the responsibility for myself and as a resident and as somebody who's running for the office, for the position, to make sure that we put the residents first at all times, at all costs. And that's exactly, what we need to start doing. And some of these councilors have not done that for the city of Fall River. They've been there to push their own agendas, and we have not seen anything new happen.
Whatever is money left, they're going for it. They don't go look for new money without taxing the people. They're just going for it. That's exactly what happened when I got the $4.5 million for Father Travassos. At the city council, at least 2 city councils mentioned, why don't we use that's a lot of money for that park. Why don't we use that money for another park? Doesn't work like that. The paperwork was done. The money was given to Father Travassos. We cannot go around and take it from there and put it in there and change the accounts and stuff like that. But this is people that are sitting as city councils that they try to to fund money. Doesn't matter where it comes from. It's money, and we can get it.
And you're right, Carlos, because the fact is that these people run, but when they get in the office, they no longer become representatives of the people, or as Kennedy once said, history will judge if you're a politician, whether you're a politician or a statesman. See, people who truly represent the people are willing to make the tough stands, are willing to say no to a mayor. That's why we have the system we have. We have a system of government that is supposed to be checks and balances. But Fall River, we've heard this mantra for how many years now? Oh my God, if you disagree with the mayor, you're a negative, you're an obstructionist, you're this, you're that. Everybody has to sing the same song. But we need people to stand up. We need a council, and we need councilors, and we need a mayor that will say, we got to make the tough decisions.
And you know something? If I had to promise something and I got elected and I see that I cannot give back my promises, I will resign. I will say, you know something, I tried, but this is all about politics. I'm not going to fall for it. I cannot deliver what I promised, so it's time for me to push aside.
Carlos Cesar for mayor.
Probably win.
No, but see, that's the thing. The thing is, there's always a story, but then you see how disingenuous they are, because all they are is thieves, because they always figure out how to steal your money. See, before, when they got the council to agree to steal your money, they blamed it on the council. Well, the council approved it. And now, if they think they're going to get some resistance for the council, they run it through a board that we have no control over, which I question the legality of that. I don't care if if some idiot in Boston passed a statute that gives non-elected people the right to fee. I'm going to file a taxpayer suit, because the state constitution, which is the supreme document, and CJ knows I love this one, Article 5 of Part 1 says clearly that all magistrates and elected officials, whether they be legislative, judicial, or executive, are at all times agents of the people and answerable to the people. Well, guess what? Any board that's not elected by the people is still an ex officio extension of the mayor, if the mayor appointed that board. And they still have to answer to the people. And I don't believe they can impose a tax or a fee on the people without having some mechanism for the people to say no. We can vote a city councilor out of office. We can't get in a board member, and I think that should go to the Supreme Judicial Court of the state of Massachusetts, because, they can say what they want. It's a giant con job. The fact is, cities are not businesses. And you hear it, we got to run the city like a business. Well, guess what? If this city was a business, we would have been bankrupt years ago. We would have been out of business, the doors would have been closed, and somebody else would have opened up a hot dog stand. That's what Fall River would have been, a giant hot dog stand, because we couldn't run a one-man parade in this city. Our politicians could not direct a one-man parade. And you know something? This is not a business, because what business pays and buys its own products, doesn't sell it to the public. You're going to give your people salaries, and they're going to invest their entire salary buying the products they make. You don't make a profit. You're using your own money. They're using our money, and they're making us poorer, and we can't support businesses. It's absurd. We've got to realize that government, and I hate, to quote Ronald Reagan. I just didn't like the man. I thought he was a very ineffective president. He destroyed basically the benefits for working people in the United States. But he made a very, very great quote. The only quote I ever liked by him. He said, "Government is not the solution. Government is the problem." And that's the thing. And these people think that, and actually the mayor, you were there, he accused me of he figured me out. I was a small government man. I'll let you guys close, but I'm going to tell you, for the record, Sam, I'm not a small government man. I'm not a big government man. I'm a good government man. I'm a man who wants my government to be what it's supposed to be, representative of me, that spends my money where I want it spent, not on parks. You know, it's criminal. The CPA fund has more money in it than the city of Fall River has in its reserve fund. And that's money they took out of my pocket, and I will move mountains after this election to have that tax removed, because I'm not paying for somebody who actually has a very big political job with the state. His wife runs a library, and she got $192,000 out of my money and your money to put air conditioning in the library. And they have $500,000 left over to hand out to all the other political hacks or wives of the political hacks. That's not what I want. They duped the public with that CPA, and we're going to repeal it.
Remember, Chip, though, it wasn't the library. Because if it was the library, people say, "Oh, well, it's the library. It's an old building. It's the old courthouse."
Yeah, the old court. Yeah, but it's
that
a children's library.
And that organization doesn't even own the building. Okay, so you have to look at where your tax dollars are going. Plus, the other caveat, which was announced or made aware of at the Niagara meeting, was that money can be used for low-income housing. So I bet people didn't know that, right?
Just what we need.
Just what we need, more of it. So, hey, it's always fun. It's always exciting. It's always Fall River, the nightmare known as Fall River. So, and that economic development person that I've been speaking to for a number of weeks now, I've been sending you his material, actually finally made contact with the mayor's office. Rob Bentleweski took his call, and he's going to be paying us a visit up here in Fall River in the upcoming weeks. And he will be meeting with any city councilor, any person in Fall River, and including the mayor, in regards to what Fall River should be doing for economic development. Oh no, an expert, somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Can you believe it, Chip? I mean, It's gonna be interesting, to say the least.
And I want to just quickly commend Carlos he started out the Flint meeting very well by telling the mayor that even though he disagrees, we will listen to ideas and see this is what we need in government. We need to be able to understand that, we can't have everybody walking in, I always say, the last time everybody walked using the same step, they were doing the goose step. So we can't have that. So, you wanted me to give you that quote, Carlos, before the end of the thing that you liked.
Let's hear it.
Winston Churchill once said, and he used the word nation, but it can be applied to city or any government level. The nation that attempts to tax its way to prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket trying to lift it by the handles.
That's a good
That was
one.
a really good quote that night, especially when he was trying to shut you down. And he
Was
just
a
like,
good
forget
one.
it, I'm out.
That's what the humor comes on the meeting.
Well, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday.